Well, as you know, Alec, I went to the University of Michigan, the other U of M, as they say it in here, the Twin Cities. So I followed JJ McCarthy pretty closely in his career at Michigan, went to the title game in Houston when they won the championship. Read your terrific story on him early on. I think you talked to people from Michigan and some of the coaches there about his readiness. Like, what were some early impressions of him? Clearly, he's the guy going forward, potentially starting next year. But what were some early impressions from him that maybe might surprise some Vikings fans, where I think people assume that he was more of like a system guy in Michigan? They ran the ball so much, right? They ran the ball so much. He wasn't have to win the games with him. But like, what was your impression around him and expectations of him beyond after this year when he's healthy?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question. Like, I've said it 3 times, but I'm from Alabama. So, like, my mind, when they drafted JJ McCarthy, it went directly to the Rose Bowl game and to him ultimately, like, leading the drive that knocked off Alabama, which made me very sad. But it was impressive to watch him produce in that environment on that stage. And, I mean, when they drafted him, it wasn't that surprising to me. He's a guy, having talked to a lot of different people, like who seemed to fit Kevin O'Connell's system. And then he comes in the spring, and it wasn't perfect. Like, there were practices where the balls were errant. I try not to react to a lot of those daily practices, because I think the more you kind of react, the more that it can skew the narrative one way or another on just a minor data point, which is one day of practice. So I didn't really write a ton about it. I didn't really make much of it. I knew he was in the process of developing and changing some footwork, so that was probably impeding him. But it really wasn't perfect. And so he stayed over the summer, which not all guys do, and it's not something you have to do. That's not mandated. He chose to do that because, as we've come to find out, he's as committed as they come in terms of both the work that he puts in and how much he wants people internally to respect him and the way he goes about it. And then we show up to training camp, and from the get-go, I mean, it was like, man, this is like impressive. And it was, I mean, from just early on, the velocity on some of the passes, the accuracy to both sides, which people dinged him around the draft time about his ability to throw to the left. That was, I mean, it was not a problem at all. I mean, the aura kind of on the field, he would make an amazing throw and go celebrate and chest bump the tight end, and he was all over the place. So just, he seemed ahead of schedule. Talking to people internally, they said he was ahead of schedule, and who knows how it would have trended with the rest of training camp. I still think Sam Darnold would have started, and I think the Vikings wanted to take a long-term view from the get-go because he is still so young. But it was everything you want to see in a young quarterback: on the field, off the field, work ethic, disposition, maturity. Like, it was the whole package, and that's why when Kevin O'Connell explained the news that he had undergone the full repair of his meniscus, that he'd gotten hurt, it's why Kevin was as outspoken as he was about, like, you guys as fans can feel comfortable that we have the future quarterback in this building. And I don't think he says that if he himself, a guy who knows quarterbacks at a level that I will never, doesn't feel as confident as he does about the direction. So it was a bummer. Like, the injury thing, just as someone who, I mean, again, like I talked about the positivity, the vibes. Like, it was cool to see that the way that people here had gravitated around him, and it was cool to watch a guy develop and people gravitate towards him the way they did. So to see him go down was brutal, but all great things take time, and so yeah, I think that's where they're at in terms of the future. But I mean, nothing really crazy blew me away, other than I went and spent a day with his family at his house in Chicago, and it was so normal. Like, there weren't jerseys everywhere, there weren't pictures of him anywhere. We sat on the back porch of their house, and there's like this kind of like the porch was not cleaned up, even though a reporter was coming. It was just so like run of the mill, middle class, like a normal like mother and father just proud of their son, but also proud of their other kids. And so that was really, more than anything throughout this time, like, that's what blew me away the most. Like, I kind of imagine with a lot of these quarterbacks, the parents are helicopter. They're always on them. They're watching everything. The pride is on display at all times. And and while they are proud, just the normalcy that they kind of acted kind of blew me away. So if anything, that's kind of where my mind goes.